Hey, welcome to Integrated Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith, and how are you all today? Are you scared yet? Are you scared to death of the latest thing? Well, that's what I want to talk about today because there's all sorts of things coming down the road, right? Before we get started, I want to remind you that this is brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series, the Reversion, the Revival, the Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, and the Blessings of Freedom, and they're all available on Amazon, and the links are down there. It's the complete plan and study in a novel, in a great book series, they tell me, on how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a total collapse. And the sixth book is almost out, and those of you on Patreon have already got a special message and a sneak preview on that, haven't you? It'll be out soon. And should I tell you? Should I say what the title is? I'm going to hold off on that. It's a great title, and it's a great book. And it's been a while coming, but it's about to be here. Those of you on Patreon already know what I'm talking about. Speaking of Patreon, I put up a couple yesterday over there for anybody who's not with us over there yet, and the link there is also down below. I put up one, my thoughts on the Tyree, what's his name down there in Memphis? Anyway, it was the police killing of that guy. And because I've seen a number of comments, both on this channel and on others, people making comments who really don't have the background to make a judgment on the situation. I did put that on kind of the restrictive Stonemont level, because anytime I put something up that people are real interested in, but don't have the experience to really make have a good opinion on, the more we have the chance of having a whole lot of kind of off the wall, argumentative, wrong information coming in the comments, and that can tend to mislead people. That's the main. I'm about to do one. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I've been meaning to do it for a while on why I delete comments and block idiots. but that's kind of one of the reasons. When people have strong opinions about things, they can come on, they can give those opinions, and however, if they don't have the experience to back them up, they can mislead other people. And this being my channel, is really the place for me to give my opinion. I don't mind other people giving opinions if it's based on experience, but when it's not, it can mislead people who also don't have experience. I'm responsible for what people come away from this channel with, and so that's what I do. Kind of along those lines also, I read a little bit yesterday on the Patreon channel from an article that I wrote in 1999. What does that say? I can't read backward. Choosing a weapon for self and home defense. And I think I titled that one over there, and if you'll see the name down there, it's under the name that most people know me by that don't know me from my books or YouTube, and that's Craig Smith. And I think I titled that, Have I Changed My Opinion on 9mm? Well, the interesting thing about this, I wrote this in 1999, and I go through all of the calibers from 22 to 25 to 32 to 380 to 9mm to 357 to 44 Special to 44 Magnum. I left out my favorite 41 Magnum. I probably should have put it in there. And clear on up to what else did I get there? Up to 45 Auto. Anyway, the interesting thing was, and I'm not going to tell you, if you want to know whether I've changed my mind, you have to join us on Patreon. But see, guys, I got a kick out of this because I wrote this in 1999. I am not a new dog in this fight. And so that's kind of shows when people come on and I say that a 9mm is an it's a sub-effective cartridge, and I'll get people who come on and say, "Oh my, you don't know what you're talking about. The FBI uses it," and I'm going to go into more of some idiotic statements when I make that about why I block idiots. So I'll stop right there. or they've heard something about a gun counter, or they believe everything that they read in magazines, or they think that ballistic gel is the same as shooting a person. You see, I wrote an article about all this stuff, guys, back in, what's it been, 24 years ago, and I carried a 9mm, an FN high power back when I was undercover in 1979. So I'm not new to this. So when you hear me talk about things, it actually comes from experience. Now, let me ask you this. What are you scared of? You scared? You're real scared? It's time to be scared, right? Well, we got all sorts of things that apparently just by reading the news and reading the titles on a lot of channels on YouTube, a lot of things that we need to be scared of, just need to be petrified of, just need to be so scared we can hardly even function. And we need to go and hide someplace, whether it's under our bed or wherever. Something came out. I mean, we and there are some things that are of serious concern. We have an open border. We've got we've got a national leadership that is driving us into a third world war. We have got a fentanyl crisis. We have got a human trafficking crisis. We have got a crime crisis. We have got more crises than there are to put on the end of crises. And we've got an economic crisis. We've got a what other crisis do we have? Throw them in here. We've got an inflation crisis. We have a housing crisis. We have a financial crisis across the board. The Fed's gonna raise the interest rates again. But I know I've missed a bunch, right? Doesn't matter. Last night I was, the thing is, are they real? And what are you doing about it? Last night I saw something on, was it on Tucker? I think it was. It might have been on Tucker, who I like. He's one of the only couple that left on Fox that are worth a darn. But he was talking about the egg crisis, I think. And, we know that because of the bird flu, a lot of them had to be slaughtered, and so that's driven up the price of eggs, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, I understand it to the extent that I understand, cause and effect and supply and demand, right? The more demand there is for fewer goods, the cost goes up. Simple as that. That's not magic and it's not secret. But he was talking about, and he was interviewing apparently some chicken farmers. Is that what they call people that raise chickens? I don't know. The difference between a farmer and a rancher is, ranches is mainly cattle and sheep and, horses. But he was interviewing several of those that said, well, their chickens stopped laying eggs, and they stopped laying eggs at a certain time, and then when they changed their feed, they started producing eggs again. So the sub line for this was something in the feed causing the chickens not to produce eggs. And then, of course, there you can skip across the great conspiracy divide and say, are they putting something in the feed that keeps chickens from, laying eggs, that drives the prices up because only the rich people want eggs. They don't want the poor people to have eggs. And, I wasn't sure. I don't know anything about chickens. I don't never raised chickens. I fed some chickens as a kid on my granddad's farm, but that's the extent. Other than eating chicken and eating eggs, that's it. I did write something. It came from something that I did know, and I included it in one of my books. I forget which. But it's when Stonemont, they were setting up chicken houses. And I talked to some people who raised chickens, and they informed me. And I wrote about it in the book. As egg production slows down, it's not the heat or the cold or anything like that. It's the amount of light. And as As the day, now I'm going to give somebody else here. I want to talk about Cynthia over at Roots, Rocks, and Feathers here in just a second. But I knew from that as the days get shorter, the production goes down, right? Well, I got on today, and one of the first things that I saw was Cynthia, Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. And if you want to know about chickens, you should watch her channel and you should subscribe. There's only about 3 channels left that I recommend. She's one of them. She also does crocheting and things like, I think it's crocheting. I don't know the difference between crocheting and knitting, but she does that. She and her husband, he's retired Air Force. They homestead. They have they are set up wonderfully. And but she knows her chickens. And so she put out one about chickens. And she explained, it doesn't have anything to do. It's crazy. She goes, I won't try to redo hers. Go over and watch her video today. Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. She explains exactly what she thinks is going on. She's probably right, because what do I know? She knows more than we do, right? Exactly what's going on with this so-called conspiracy against the chickens. Okay, look. How many people do you think are just scared to death about the chicken problem and the egg shortage, and they're running off the cliff with the rest of the lemmings about the conspiracy about the eggs? I know that fear sells. There's another channel that I will mention, and it's Cold War Prepper, and it's run by Lee. Do you know why I recommend channels? I'll just put it in here. I don't think I'm going to mention any more on this one. I will mention one more. Viking Preparedness. Do you know why I recommend it? Because these are people that actually know what they're talking about. And they talk solutions, not just try to scare people. Okay? They actually talk solutions. They know what they're talking about. They're living the life they talk about. They're walking the walk, not just talking you know what. And they're nice. They're nice folks. They want to help people. They are sincere. That's what goes into me recommending channels. And I don't recommend people that I don't feel that way about. So anyway, but Lee over at Cold War Prepper, he's another one that I would recommend. And why did I start talking about him? Because he sent me, he made a comment on one of my videos and say, well, yeah, he says, I don't know why, all these other channels have 100, 200,000 subscribers, and I've got 5,000, but, I guess that, the fear sells, and that's exactly right. Fear sells, sex sells, violence sells. Why anybody would want to be wrapped up in any of those is beyond me. You should not be. You should not be afraid. The entire point of prepping, is so that you won't have to be afraid, so that you'll be ready. It's not the problem. It's the solution. Okay, but we know that there are plenty of people that just want to get all worked up, wind themselves around the axle because of the latest problem. Well, no, there's a psychological reason for that, and I'm not going to get into it here. But it is a psychology, and it's almost an addiction to need problems, to need drama. If you're really interested, hey, share this with your friends. Somebody asked me, can I share this? Yes, you can share any of my videos. If you're really interested in preparedness, you are interested in the solutions. Okay, you recognize the problem for the sole purpose of knowing what you need to prepare for. And then once you've identified it, you don't dwell on it. You don't live in it. You don't beat yourself over the head with it. You don't lay under the bed or under your covers and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe about this problem. It's going to come kill me. No, you're looking at the solution. That's the reason that you should prepare. I don't know how many of you ever saw the channel introduction of my kids' channel that they were going to start many years ago. It's the cutest thing you ever seen. And they say, don't be scared, be prepared. That's exactly right. If, it's like the old, if you're going to worry, if you're going to pray, why worry? And if you're going to worry, why pray? Do one of the other. And preparing is like praying. Take care of it. Take your troubles to God and then let Him take care of them. Then stop worrying, okay? If you're going to prepare, stop the scared stuff. Stop being scared. Prepare. Put that energy, because every ounce of energy you spend winding yourself up in fear is energy you can't spend thinking clearly and planning the best course of action for your preparedness. Okay. So, some people will say, but you didn't tell us anything in this. I get this. I get this so often from the lower level. I'll put it that way because I don't care about offending the wrong people. I get so many comments from the lower level viewers who just come on here, and I'm sure they get their fix from other channels, just wanting to be scared to death and then having somebody say, here's the 3 things you need to do in order to do that. And they may or may not go off and do them. Probably most of them don't, but now they know, right? But they'll say, you didn't tell us anything. Well, see on this one, I told you the most important thing. And that is stop being scared. Do you remember the things that they scared you about 10 years ago? Are you still here? Okay. Do you remember Y2K? It scared everybody to death. Did it happen? Doesn't mean things won't happen. They will. Little things will happen. Little things will happen in your life that you need your preps for. Okay. The big one that I wrote my books about, blah, 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 another commercial. My books, the Stonemont series, the CME that wiped out the world. And I don't know, would that happen or not? We have some really smart people over on the Patreon channel that can explain all this. Hondo Bob put up just a master's class on the community section, all about CMEs and EMPs and what's real and what's not and what's right and what's wrong. I don't know all the science on that, but I made something up to write a great series of books on how to prepare for anything. Okay, so it's going to happen. The scientists tell us that one of these days there is going to be a Carrington class event, CME, that's going to take us back to pre-electric times. Okay, that's what I wrote the books about. So that will happen. You're going to have your own personal issues along the way that your preparedness will help you about. I just got a comment from one of our patrons over on Patreon. As a matter of fact, she lives in the area. I've met her. She came by and met me one time, and at an event. And she said, her husband hadn't been able to work for 3 months. Her son had been out of work, but because of her preps, they were fine. They didn't have to worry about buying food. See, those things are going to happen. So you can be all scared, but you shouldn't be. Or you can put that energy into preparing. And that is the big lesson that I wanted to get across today. Stop being scared. If you are, maybe many of you are not. You know this. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Do everything with a positive attitude, not with a negative attitude. And you'll be fine. But keep at it. Okay? All right, I'm going to get off of here. And you all have a good day. I'll probably have another announcement maybe tomorrow or the next. We'll see. But remember that we prepare well today. We don't get scared well today. We prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.